We're live. Perfect. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m., Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, and I'll call this session of West Hants Regional Municipality Council to order. Clerk Snare, I note that we do have quorum. All councilors are in attendance with Councilor Janusz zooming in tonight. With that, council, we will be voting by show of hands or thumb at home. Clicker system won't work if we have a person zooming in, so that's how we will be voting this evening. Announcements. We are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. These lands are governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. We're all treaty people and have responsibilities to each other and this land. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. With that, we do have a couple people in attendance this evening. In case of a fire alarm, exits at each side of the room here. Please make your way out in an orderly fashion. To my left, people in the audience is right, and to the muster station in the parking lot. Please be safe and be courteous of each other. Before I get to a special presentation section, Council, is there any more announcements this evening? All right, nobody jumping up and down. We'll get into this. As mentioned at our last meeting, we completed a successful completion of the bottled water program that has been going on for most of the fall. And again, with any successful program funded by the province of Nova Scotia, administered by the municipality, regional municipality of West Hants, it's never possible unless we have great community partners and volunteers who step up to help distribute, especially within our region, that we are a very diverse region that is very, very rural and very, very urban, and it's a mixture of everything. And these community partners are very important for us to deliver important these programs. So this evening we have some plaques to award these great organizations, volunteers, and individuals who helped West Hants make this a reality. And there were, I think, thousands of bottles distributed, pallets and pallets and pallets. Can you give us exact numbers, Clerk Snare?
Over $198,000 worth of
Worth
water
of-
was distributed.
Worth of bottled water. So just to put into context with everybody, it was pretty large. So we're gonna get right into it. We'll start in District 7, Southwest Hants Fire. We have Alicia with us tonight. So maybe I'll give this, or we'll do it this way. So we're gonna get you to come up here, Alicia. Uh, so Southwest Hants Fire Department Auxiliary. They were with us from pretty much from the start. Yeah, I'll come over there. Let's get my little spiel first here. And we're appreciative. You guys go above and beyond for everything. And this was an extra thing that you have done. And so many people took advantage of it. So we thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right. Our next plaque goes to a community partner who has done so much on multiple initiatives here within West Hants throughout the many years of before my time and probably before his time as well as manager. But Daryl Wilson and the team at Sobeys, they stepped up to the plate and made sure that we had the supply of water to administer in this program. And like we said, $198,000 worth. That was a large undertaking, and they were definitely there from day one. And for Daryl Wilson and the team all at Sobeys, we are gratefully appreciative. Another important community partner, and again, with every initiative and every project, and who are really there again from step one. I see Vivian is in attendance here as well with the Brooklyn Fire Department Auxiliary. So we appreciate that as well, and a proud community partner. And come on up, Vivian. And the good folks at Scotian Gold in Brooklyn as well. Not here. All right. Who again were there from day one with us as well, and distributed many bottles. So to the folks at the Brooklyn feed mill. And our final group was Chief Spencer and the Somerville Fire Department. So, like I mentioned earlier, our region is very wide, very large, and very like every aspect of it. And Chief Spencer and the Somerville Fire Department were detailed and very important in that whole program. So, for the Somerville folks, we appreciate it as well. Yeah, great. A round of applause for everybody. And just to mention 76,349 bottles in total and counting. So, wow. But I mentioned at our last meeting as well, folks, the individual who made it all come together and who began it and went out and secured the funding from the province and did the legwork and did all the paperwork. And I remember seeing the spreadsheets of numbers and bottles and oh my God, you'd have to have a degree from MIT to keep it all straight. But she did it, and she did it happily and knowingly, and never looked for any recognition at all. And she's probably killing me in her head right now. But Deanna, we have something as well for you if you want to come up, and we absolutely want to recognize you. So come on over, Deanna.
Thanks.
That's you. We'll do it like this.
Thank you.
All right. So back to the meeting. We have the agenda. It was circulated previous to all councilors. If there's any additions or deletions or anything changed, we'll take those now. I would like to move council 9A, Little River Bridge Tender Award, recommendation report from Manager Bennett, and move that up to 6C. And seeing no other lights. All right, we'll have the agenda approved. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, council, this evening?
Yeah.
Councillor McLean.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I got to declare conflict on 6C, the Little River Bridge. I have a perceived conflict with one of the contractors who bid on the job. So
Okay.
I'll step out.
Councillor Bonnie Smith.
I have to declare conflict on number 12A1 regarding the warming center funding.
Thank you very much. Anybody further on declaration of conflict? All right. Approval of the previous meeting minutes, November 11, 2025, council meeting minutes, and November 25th, rezoning PID 45285103, Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington, public hearing minutes. Was there anything in those minutes that somebody would like changed or corrected, or seeing nothing? All right, we will have those minutes approved. All right, Little River Bridge Tender Award Recommendation Reports, Manager Bennett.
Good evening, council. On behalf of the Community Development Department, we ask that council approve the award of tender WHRMCD 25-10 RFP to Vaders Excavation Limited in the amount of 672,048 plus applicable taxes to be funded through the Canadian Community Building Fund. We also ask that you approve a contingency in the amount of $33,602.40, which represents 5% of the project, plus applicable taxes for the project to be funded through the Canada Community Building Fund.
Thank you, Manager Bennett. Council, are there any questions to Manager Bennett at this time? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to walk through a bit of the process here because we'd, I guess, approved the design on this back in 2023. And it's my understanding that we first put this out to tender in 2024. I don't know what the result of that tender was, but that a tender went out in 24, which was based on the design that was done and approved in 23. Now, the design was a $67,000 cost through Design Point. So we heard nothing back on the tender in 24. We reissued it this year. It appears, any event, you can correct me if there's anything here that I'm wrong.
You're correct.
Reissued in 24, or sorry, in 25. Nothing came through, and then we reissued again this year in October. And I don't think I've missed anything in that process. But during that period of time, what had been brought to my attention was that I guess we didn't have bids that came in that were within the budget area that we had, that we then made inquiries, we made inquiries in the community for people that might be able to direct us to individuals that could do it within our budget allotment. So what I'm wanting to get to on this is that on the latest go around, and in looking at the tenders that were issued, we went from a very specific tender document, geotechnical design done by the people that we did, to now where we've got a tender that we're putting the cost of the design and so on those who have applied. Can you get me some clarity on that? That it's been quite a route to get to a point where we've got a tender coming in 2 years later, and that the tender design has changed, or it appears to have in some fashion.
This go around, I can reference the tender. So the previous tender that you might be referring to, that was designed by Design Point, it vastly exceeded our budget appetite. I think for your budget appetite, it was well in excess of $1 million. And then when we took a look at it, there didn't seem to be much of an appetite to bring that back to council at the level of a $1.6, $1.8 million bid. So we did go back and take a look at the project and the scope and the scale of the project, and try to come up with what we felt was a reasonable project based on what probably the budget would allow. And the difference in the bridge today versus the bridge, say, a year ago, is that we extended the length of the bridge to get us another 20 feet above on the high side of the bank to allow us to span the river. The previous tender called for a lot of work in the river, putting blocks in the river, retaining the walls and such, which added a lot to the cost. So we looked at it and decided we could go longer with the span and get up on the high side of the trail to get us a bridge that everybody felt, comfortable budget wise within our department, I should say, felt comfortable. That's how it came to be. And I do understand this is the third time that we've gone to this. The first two times were, the first time especially, was we grossly underestimated the costs. Steel costs alone, from my previous experience to when that bridge tender went out, I come up with a rough idea and it was way, way, way off. We weren't even close. And after that first tender, there are environmental things that have the bank started to erode. Things started to happen with the Avon River, and it got us to bridge tender number 2, which then sent us to bridge tender number 3, which is where we are today.
So if I could follow up, Mayor. So just a couple of other items, if I could, through you to Manager Bennett. So when we talked about this the first time back in 23, we had conversation here about the abutments and about whether we'd be replacing those or not. So are we intending to replace the abutments? And the follow-up to that is it goes to the water course and whether we'll still be doing work in the water, which you referenced, or whether we're avoiding that altogether with the longer span, if I'm using the right term.
So the current abutments will not be part of the bridge design. They will be left. There'll be 2 new abutments that are put in on each end. We will not be working in the water course. The plan is to stay above the water and out of the water, which is why we ended up where we are today, is to stay out of the water and not have to deal with the Department of Environment and so on and so forth. So we feel pretty confident that we can do that with this current design.
Thank you. And I think my last question has to do with the original intent of this. It was really clear that the purpose of redoing the bridge was a matter of safety. And that was the primary driver. But I know in looking through the tender piece of the document that we gave a heavy weighting to cost, which given what we'd experienced, perhaps somewhat understandable. But can you speak to whether we've seen any adjustment relative to the safety aspect and the heavy weighting on the cost side of it? In that regard, which seems to be, they're typically at opposing ends of the scale when you're making decisions. Sometimes you have to compromise. Can you just clear that up for me?
I can speak to the first part, the safety part. So in 2021, I want to believe both Design Point and Trail Flow both did Little River Bridge reports. And at that time in 2021, the bridge at that time was deemed to be well beyond its life cycle and not fit for OHV and really right now at this point even pedestrian traffic. So the safety part of it is the bridge is not safe. This will be a 4-meter wide bridge capable of handling groomers and trucks and so on. The second question, I need you to kind of elaborate or explain a little bit what you're asking me.
So it was, I'll say it as clearly as I can, is that we started off with safety as a primary aspect of this, but the weighting on the cost of the project was at 30%, which is a significant portion on any tender, especially when you look at experience, background, and so on. And so my question was, and I think you've answered it, that we're still focused on safety, that we didn't see an adjustment leaning towards cost over safety, that we'd have any concerns with what's being put forward. If I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I?
No, you're accurate. I mean, again, what we feel is going in there is going to be a wonderful addition to the trail and safe. It'll have railings, code railings, and so on and so forth. So we're not sacrificing safety for costs. No.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question has to do with the funding. It says in 24-25, the municipality received off-highway vehicle grant of 50,000 and 100,000 in recreational trail expansion funding, and the money had to be spent on construction by March 31st of 26. So will the contractor be able to get started before March 31st of 26?
The contractor has indicated that they're ready to get started immediately.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Any further questions, council, to Manager Bennett? Seeing none, we'll let you off the hook at this point. We do have a couple recommendations up on the screen. Deputy Mayor.
The council approves the award of tender WHRMCD 25-10 RFP to Vaders Excavation Limited in the amount of $672,048 plus applicable taxes to be funded through the Canada Community Building Fund.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion on the motion, council. All right. And the motion put before you, council approves the award of tender WHRM CD 25-10 RFP to Vaders Excavation Limited in the amount of $672,048 plus applicable taxes to be funded through the Canada Community Building Fund. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? One opposed. Counselor Ivy. Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. We have a second one up on the screen. Deputy Mayor.
The council approves a contingency amount of $33,602.40, 5%, plus applicable taxes for the project to be funded through Canada Community Building Fund.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Leary Pinch. Discussion on the motion. All right, motion put before you. Council approves a contingency amount of $32,602.40, 5% plus applicable taxes for the project to be funded through the Canada Community Building Fund. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Unopposed? Counselor Counselor Ivy, sorry. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. I just noticed, Counselor Yanish, you have a cast on the hand.
Heavy-handed tonight.
Good way to put it. All right, next up, we have a public hearing. We have one this evening, council, donation of land, PID 4528-5103, Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington. Can I have a motion to go into public hearing? Moved by Counselor Paul Moran. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Paul Whedon. Paul and Paul. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you very much. All right, council, public hearings for any matter related to things before council are required by Part A of the Municipal Government Act. Public hearings hosted by council provides member of the public an opportunity to bring up any concerns or ask questions to staff or the applicant. Once public hearing is complete, council meeting resume. Members of council then will ask questions and make comments. With that, donation of land, PID 4528-5103, Old Walton Road. Clerk or CAO? Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this evening, as Mayor Zabian had expressed, we are looking at donation of land, PID 4528-5103, Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington. So you've seen this parcel of land a couple of times before you. The approach taken this evening, because an application came before council to request a donation to the Hants Shore Child Care Association. We've taken the approach to proceed with this in two phases. So the first phase was council to rezone from the parcel from open space to institutional and amend the West Hants land use bylaw to add daycare centers as permitted uses. This was completed at the November 25th council meeting. And the second part of this is before you this evening, which is to donate the parcel known as PID 45285103 Old Walton Road, Up Burlington, to the Hants Shore Child Care Association, which is before you for a decision. So to provide a little bit of background, the property is currently and was owned by the West Hants Regional Municipality since 1998 and was leased to the Upper Burlington Community Hall Association in 2000. On May 13th of 2025, the Hants Shore Child Care Association presented to council and asked that the land be granted to them for the development of a child care facility. On July 8th, council passed a motion deeming the property surplus and directing the CAO to submit a rezoning application to the Planning and Development Department. Following that, a completed rezoning application was submitted by the CAO to allow the Hants Shore Child Care Association to explore establishing a licensed child care facility. And on November 25th, council unanimously supported the rezoning of PID 45285103 to support the development of the child care facility. So just a little bit on the legislative authority under the Municipal Government Act. In order to donate a parcel of land below market value, council has to have a public hearing, which is the requirement and what we're proceeding with this evening. So that would be section 5. So in past discussions, council has demonstrated strong support for this initiative, recognizing the value of increased childcare capacity for the Hants Shore area. And with the rezoning and text amendments approved as of November 25th, the next step is the formal consideration of the land donation. These steps will require compliance with the MGA regarding the disposal of municipal property below market value, which requires the public hearing specific about the donation. and then a council decision to finalize the transfer of title to the Hants Shore Child Care Association. And before you is a picture that we actually borrowed from the rezoning application and public hearing that was presented to you on November 25th. So just to give you a little context in terms of the value of the parcel. So the current assessed value of the parcel is $22,300, which breaks down to $7,433.33 per acre value. It's approximately 130,680 square feet, a little over 3 acres in total. So in order to have the public hearing, we opened up public feedback and responses. So on November 25th to December 5th, we received 2 submissions one expressed support in the donation of the land for the proposed childcare facility, as well as one expressed a desire to have the comment period extended until November 19th. Those were the only 2 pieces of correspondence received regarding this matter. No phone calls were received, no letters. So we wanted to give you a side-by-side view because this proposal has been before you and we're treating it as 2 different applications. One is through the planning process, which was the rezoning. And on this side here, you'll see through my arrows, it provides the breakdown of the process to date. And as I said, on the November 25th, council supported the rezoning application through the public hearing and second reading. Tonight is where we are. So on July 22nd, the property was deemed surplus by council. A donation of land notice was placed in the local paper on November 21st and 28th, and on the municipal website and social media pages beginning on November 25th of 2025, asking for input and advising the public that we were holding a public hearing to propose a donation of land. This evening, the public hearing is before you with a council decision should you choose to support the donation. And before you is the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Clerk Snare. I'm going to open up to members of the public who wish to speak on this matter to council. Come on up. We'll get you to click one of the mics on, Lori, and just state your name for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lori Maxwell, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Hants Shore Child Care Association. We are in full support of the proposed gift of land in Upper Burlington, PID 452-85103, to our nonprofit, the Hants Shore Child Care Association. A yes tonight, a yes vote from council this evening would not only endorse the project, but also demonstrate a clear commitment to our community. It would provide our association with a jumpstart, allowing us to focus our resources on bringing this much needed childcare facility to life. This is truly a collective effort, and we are grateful to council and to West Hants staff for their dedication to supporting families in our community. For anyone interested in learning more about this project, we are hosting our first AGM tomorrow evening at the Center Burlington Hall at 6 p.m., and we welcome community-minded individuals to join us. That's it, short and sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak on this matter? Yep, we're going to get you to come on up. We'll get you to click the mic on as well. Just state your name for the record, and we'd love to hear your comments.
Yep. So I'm Brett Robertson. I live off of 12 Old Walton Road. Unfortunately, I knew about this, but I didn't know to the full extent of what was going on yet. I question a little bit the process to this. I know when I wanted to build an addition, a secondary dwelling building on my property, I know different municipalities and legislations have different rules and regulations, but I had to physically go to each and every address within 1,000 meters of my new building. I'm not a type of person that gets mail every day. Unfortunately, that's not where I am. And so I'm here today because now I realize, thanks to a couple of my local neighbors told me where the progression of this is. So my concerns, a couple of the concerns I have, and I'm hoping that just based on the location, I know that map there was pretty helpful to relate to. I'm not too sure if we can even pull that up or not, but I'm sure some of us remember it being in between the 215 and Walton Road. And it doesn't really show too well there just based on the fact that it's zoomed in. But in the 4 or 5 years that I've lived here, I've seen a number of car accidents. I've seen cars flipped over in ditches. I've seen cars in the ponds that are a little further away from that. But because that area is an area where traffic seems to always be exceeding speed limits, and it doesn't matter if it's wet conditions or snowy conditions. People are usually in a hurry to get from point A to B, and often on these S bends, you see that this is where traffic incidents has happened, and specifically where Old Walton Road joins into the 215. There's no shoulders on that road. My wife, 2 a.m., pulled a kid out of his car upside down in the ditch. And that's different because I know it's 2 a.m. And I'm hoping that based on a regular time periods in the day that this wouldn't occur. But more often than not, people are worried about themselves and getting from point A to B as quickly as they can. And often road conditions and speeds are secondary to people's desires from getting from here to there. And you mentioned earlier safety, talking just about the bridge. Safety is everything. We can't ever take that lightly. And unfortunately, like I said, I've seen enough accidents on this specific bend, this whole S bend from the bridge past here, basically getting down a little further down into middle Burlington. So my concern certainly is the safety. So then the question is where is the entrance and exit coming to this daycare center? And I was told it's off of Old Walton Road. So then my following question is how are they entering and exiting off of Old Walton Road? Is it coming off the 215? Would that be an acceptable location? I don't think it's safe. I pull in and out of there every single day. Okay, because I live, the very first house is my house. So I see it every single day. And you have to be very careful when you're coming around that corner. And that's a big concern for me, especially when you're dealing with children up between the ages of 1 and 5 years old. Parents are trying to get the kids to daycare before they get late to go to work. And all of these things, although they seem like an excuse, these all add to car accidents, which is again, safety. So that to me is, I would say, the foremost of my concern with this daycare center being in the proximity of this location on an S bend on a major route that consists of high speed traffic. My second issue with this is that with our water table being what it is, I myself this year has ordered water 5 times for my residence, which is no more than probably 200 meters away from this location. Now we're adding, from what I understand, 50 children and possibly 10 adults looking after that. And I did some quick research on how much water that consumes and the impact that it'll have for the local homes that are right up against that building, which in likelihood could be sharing the same water table. So what does that negatively impact on the homeowners who all live there? There are plenty of other locations and community centers that aren't being used throughout the day that could be used, that already have a well, that already have parking, that are off of and safely off of major highways that this presents. So my concern is obviously the water table and the impact that it'll have on your local homeowners who live there. And the third thing is the sewage seepage. So you have 2 major ditches on both sides of that building, and I don't know, and forgive me if I'm ignorant here. I'm using this as an example, a template of what this property is going to somewhat look like when the project, if it's approved, would be built like. So there's obviously rules in place to offset sewages from other residences. That public pathway, there's going to be an offset of some sort where that can't leach in the public pathway, which is something that the local homeowners use. It's maintained, it's cut. So the neighbors use that as well. And the accessibility to that. But the sewage, how is that going to impact on the neighbors around the area? And the offset of that has to be offset away from, I'm assuming, the playground and the parking. And how far away is that going to be based on where the wells dug? And how big is that septic system going to be? And how is it negatively going to impact the other areas in our water table? Because now we're dealing with 50 kids, and and I'm not saying that I don't know how many times 50 kids go to the washroom. I did research on it. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's a few times. It's quite a few times kids flush the toilet. They need to go to the bathroom, and as they get older, they can hold their bathroom breaks longer. But in the meantime, at that young age, our water table is going to be used quite a bit, and the sewage is going to be used quite a bit, and I'm worried about that impact on the neighborhood there. So that's another thing that I'm concerned with. There's a couple other things, but it's just, I don't know where we're at with it. So again, I plead a little bit of ignorance here, being new to this, but those are two major things that, or three major things that I'm concerned about. So, and the fourth thing is I did read, or somebody told me it was going to be 50 people. And then I thought I saw something on Facebook. Somebody sent me a link. And then I thought I saw there was a higher wait list than 50 children. And who audits the amount of children that are going through there? So it's easy to say today, in order to get this passed, we're going to have 50 children here because that meets the proximity of the building, the land. So therefore, we're going to say we're going to have 50 people. But what happens if that's a slow play? What happens if, say, 5 years from now, we can up it? And now we can add 24 more children, or 25 more children, or 15 more children. What does that impact on a septic system, on a septic table, on the well? Because if you buy a home, you know that septic systems are based on engineering, based on rooms and volume of usages. So does that now increase the volume of the septic field, the septic system? And now does that push that boundary to where it's not allowed to be so close to that public walking space? So again, how do you audit how many children are there, and how many adults are there, and how much that's being used? Because it's a very, very tight road. Getting backing in and backing out of there, I'm sure they're not going to back in and back out. They're going to do, logic tells me they're going to go in and come back out, but that's going to be a tight area to be able to navigate through that, especially when people are ripping up the Walton Road to go home, as people are coming in and out of that building. And that makes it a real tight area for the gentleman who lives just above that, because he almost shares the same entrance and exit point on Old Walton Road. So again, those are my concerns right now. I haven't really seen anything or heard anything that gives me relief that these are answers that are being made. And I'm worried that this is, in a couple of years' time, it's going to change and it's going to get bigger. And I guess my other question would be is, I drive by these community centers, there's one just off of Wentworth Street. There's one further down in Somerville. There's a few locations. I think there's one, I forget the little town it's called, but there's a whole bunch in this area. I'm not too sure why we would be investing in, yes, you're saving $20,000 if it's gifted to you, but the infrastructure to that, the parking, the septics, the wells, the impact to the neighbors, and everything else that, and the most important thing is high risk for danger of accidents or anything like that. I don't understand why we would try to put a square peg in a round hole here. It doesn't make sense to me. So that's basically what I got to say. Sorry for being long-winded, but
No,
those are all concerns I have.
we appreciate it. So this process tonight is on the donation of the land. At our last meeting, council approved the rezoning of the land, which would allow for the construction of a facility of this nature. So that was at the last meeting. Council had already approved that one. So tonight's hearing is on the donation of the land.
So at this point, anything that I was concerned about should have been last week,
That would have
because
been,
it can't be rectified or nothing can change now.
that would have been for last week's process. But
So how come so if you're not, so just to understand this, like I referred back to when I wanted to build something, and my responsibility as a builder to add an addition to my property, I had to notify those who were negatively impacted by the location, by proximity, I had to physically knock on people's doors, explain to them what I plan on doing. And are you okay with it? I had to make my notes, and then I had to submit that to council, right? And then it got approved, or it had to go to further discussion. How come that never happened? As being such a big impact
Yeah.
on the environment that it is in right now.
Yeah, I don't think that's part of our process. I'm not sure if you're referring to West Hants Regional or
Yeah,
another municipality.
another
but,
municipality.
yeah, I can't speak on their
Okay.
processes at all.
It's not
but,
applied here.
It's not a part of the process here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, perfect.
well, I said my piece.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak on this matter tonight? All right, with that, anything further on your end, Clerk Snare?
Just the motion, Mayor.
All right, perfect. So with that, council, we will conclude the public hearing. We will resume our regular council meeting, and we do have a recommendation that will be put up. There it is. If somebody wishes to make that, we can have debate, or if there are any questions to Clerk Snare before we get to that, we can take those now as well. No questions? All right, I'll look for a motion. Councillor Bonnie Smith.
Council approves the conditional donation of a portion of PID 45285103 Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington property to the Upper Burlington Hall, and the remaining portion of PID 452850103 Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington property inclusively to the Hants Shore Child Care Association, and directs the Chief Administrative Officer to carry out the necessary step to donate the land.
Motion has been made by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Jim Ivey. Is there debate or discussion on the motion? Seeing no lights, I'll repeat the motion that's going to be put before council. Council approves the conditional donation of portion of PID 45285103 Old Walton Road, Center Burlington property to the Upper Burlington Hall, and the remaining portion of PID 45285103 Old Walton Road, Upper Burlington property inclusively to the Hants Shore Child Care Association, directs the Chief Administrative Officer to carry out the necessary step to donate the land. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, unfinished business, speed bumps in the crossing, request for information. Councillor Morton.
Yeah,
Bob.
thank you, Worship. Quick, the report was there. This was brought, I don't know if it was last week, last month, recently anyway, and it was turned down by council. So the purpose isn't to revisit what was turned down, but a big point of that conversation was lack of information. And I've had a lot of residents reach out since that, looking for more information and some answers. So really, this report is just asking council to get a cost or a Class D estimate to see what speed bumps would actually cost. Doesn't necessarily mean it's just in the crossing. Of course, my report is on the crossing. I've got a few main arteries or main roads listed in my motion, but I suspect the cost will be the same regardless of the roads. So if you have any questions, prepared to answer them. Report was there.
Perfect.
But
Thank you very much. Are there any questions to Councillor Bob Morton at this time before he gets to a motion? Councillor Rem.
Through you, Mayor, just to Councillor Morton. Just curious, was it specifically speed bumps or just or traffic calming measures? Because I know that they sometimes have those ones that don't interfere with plows. I don't know what the proper terminology and those types of things.
this exercise is for speed bumps. Doesn't mean I won't bring something forward later, but for the purpose of this is the speed bumps.
Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Bob, for bringing the report back. So my one comment, I guess, that I would make on this, I would support seeing the cost of speed bumps being implemented, but I can't support it based on just looking at the 3 roads. For us to deploy and put speed bumps in, we have I don't know if it's right to say that we have a policy that we don't, or that it's, I'm not sure what the right wording is around that. Maybe you can educate me on that. But I think I fundamentally believe that speed bumps are more functional and serve a purpose than what we may give them credit for. And so I believe they're a tool that we should have the ability to use. And so I'd be looking to know what the cost is by way of an information report that comes from council. So regardless of the streets, I wouldn't look to specify. I think you're probably right that it would be the same no matter where it's at, but there may be reasons that it's not the same. We do have them as an extra comment already leading up the driveway to the high school. I realize that's private, but even still, they're used. And I know that once you hit the first one on that road, if you hit it, you certainly slow down for each of the other ones. And then the other question that I have is what would be required by way of a policy change to allow them to be a tool within the kit that staff can deploy in order to get them. So two things. One is that it be more generic on location, and two is policy change required. So we know that. Excuse me, whenever a report came back, cough lavender, swallow the wrong way.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through you. It's not really a question for Councillor Morton, but if I recall when this report we first saw it, I'd like to have some information maybe from Manager Burgess a little bit more, because I don't recall that it showed that there was speeding on some of these roads. I could be wrong, but I don't think the report we had indicated there was speeding. So I don't know, Director Richard, if you have, I don't know if we're there yet because we don't have a motion, if it's just for Councillor Morton now.
These are questions. So
Okay, yeah,
based on reports,
I
so-
recall that report. When I looked at it, I don't remember that there was actually speeding indicated on that.
Director Richard.
Yep, through you, your worship. Yes, you are correct. There wasn't speeding, judging by the speed of radars that we had them up. The 80% percentile was certainly not met, and there wasn't no speeding on that. That may help you too. I know it's just collecting information, but within we do have a policy for traffic calming. And once we go through that, one of the steps was looking at if there was speeding infractions. It turned out there wasn't. So it kind of ended that in the policy. So, but if there was speeding, and then there was so many people that did want traffic calming, because some people in the crossing may not want it. There was that in the policy, because the policy does speak to that. And then once it did get to that stage, if there was speeding and the residents wanted it, there was several options for traffic calming, not just speed bumps, but speed humps, chicanes and other there's options. And one other thing that's probably important to note, sounds like the legislation is changing. Before, municipalities were not allowed to lower the speed limits below 50 kilometers per hour. Sounds like that will be changing. So if council, wants to lower speed limits, in areas that, like the crossing, that could be lowered to 30, that may be an option too, just so you have some more information to consider.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify if I remembered that, and maybe lowering the speed limit is a cheaper way to start than getting into it, but it'll come back in the report. Thank you.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Your Worship. So another question for the Director of Public Works related to that last comment. Do you know when the speed limit rules will change?
I can't give you a specific date, but sounds like it's certainly in the works. It has passed through the channels, so it's sometime in the new year, early spring. We're projecting that we may see that change to allow the municipality to set its own speed limits on its municipal streets. So.
Very good, thank you.
All right, no more questions, Councillor Morton.
Yeah, just one comment before I make the motion. I'm certainly not looking to implement speed bumps right now. It's more just a information gathering session. So no financial impacts, none of that stuff. So it showed no speeding. I also ran past one of those signs and it showed it went 17 miles an hour or kilometers an hour. This old dog can't run 17 kilometers an hour. So there's maybe something to be desired there. I don't think I could run.
Don't discount yourself. You never know.
Well, maybe I was, but anyway, story for another day. But certainly we'll put the motion up. Just want to get some information. It'll help us on all the roads. Maybe I'll reword it so it doesn't have specific roads in there because I'm sure
A question?
it's the same.
You got another question? Yep.
Yeah, thanks. I would be interested in what the cost would be on speed bumps, but also on the style of the speed bump. There's the small ones and there's these long ones that you see in the neighborhoods through Sackville and Halifax. And I know they'd be much more expensive. So I would be interested to know what the cost of those is.
Okay. Councillor Bonnie Smith.
I'd like to know what the cost is too. However, is it possible to maybe even reword it so we can get the costs on other types of traffic calming, such as those like the smiley, frowny, green or red faces that pop up when you're speeding through? Because I think that would be pretty effective for people. And we have lots of streets in Windsor that, right in the town of Windsor, that people have been asking about having some kind of speed bump or traffic calming there, especially like Wiley and King. So there's a lot. There's quite a few.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As part of the information request, I'd like to ask also if we could, and I don't know that you need to roll it into your motion, Councilor Morton, but just when we had that report, questions were raised, not around this table, but afterwards in discussion with members of the public about the variance in the numbers that showed up in the report. And so I'd like us to just to review to ensure that we're purely quoting either miles per hour or kilometers per hour within the report, that we weren't mixing any of those. And I don't mean to make such an assertion that might happen, but it's easy enough for that to happen depending on what you're reading on your monitoring device and based on what you have in your own software. And so I just like to be sure that we had consistent information throughout that. If we can just take a peek at that to be sure that something didn't happen with the data that came through.
Any other questions? Councillor Paul Morton.
I got a question for Todd since he sat back down, so he has to come back up.
Director Richard. Getting your steps in today.
So just a question. So if we put speed bumps anywhere, are they permanent or are they ones you can take up for winter plowing? We can see them in New Brunswick. They take them up for the winter time for plowing.
Yeah, there's both. There's permanent speed bumps that you can asphalt, or the speed bumps would be what Evanview, the private speed bumps, and there's the speed humps that are more rounded. Some places, subdivisions in Mount Uniacke have them. Going to the ball fields there, they have the speed humps. And you can do both. You can have them permanent and you can have them temporary. They're kind of spiked into the asphalt. We have some on the water plant road to slow people that are going into the falls next to the residents. So those are spiked into the gravel or the asphalt. So there's a mix of traffic calming measures that could be deployed.
Just one more quick question. There's much cost variance between permanent and removable?
Removable would be a maintenance item. They're going to dislodge, they're going to move. So there'd probably be more maintenance, more operational, and the speed bumps, certainly, they're not going to, there's going to be a maintenance requirement there too, along with, they are hard to plow around, they cause damage, and then there'd be some complaints too, because people complain about potholes, but potholes is a traffic calming device too on streets. So it does slow people down. So.
You're going to end up on Facebook for that one, Dr. Richard. We got to laugh a little bit. Ho, ho, ho. Back to you, Councillor Morton.
Well, maybe that's the answer. We just got to dig some holes and we're good, Director. But I think I'll generalize the motion, take out some streets and add some different words. But we'll try it. That's the council direct the CEO to instruct staff to prepare a Class D estimate for the potential installation. I am going to say for speed bumps, humps, and other potential traffic calming measures that we can deploy within the West Hants Regional Municipality, and return this information, including costing analysis and options for funding sources to council for consideration.
Moved by Councillor Bob Morton.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Scott McLean. Discussion on the motion. No lights. All right, I won't read it again, but cost a report back, Class D estimate for installation of speed bumps and other traffic calming measures throughout the region, and I think that's the gist of it anyways. All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? 2 opposed. Councillor Paul Morton and Deputy Mayor. All right, motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, moving on. Waste collection of private road requests for information. Councillor Leary Pinch.
Yeah, so this is kind of in follow-up to the motion that I brought forward at Committee of the Whole. And there had been some questions about how much does it cost to service other similar private roads that meet the standards? What would that look like if we didn't just apply it to these roads? And so I have brought this report forwards, basically requesting that staff prepare a report with additional information for roads that meet the municipal specs, which are included in the private road collection policy, which Councillor Ivy did bring my attention that it wasn't attached this time. So it was attached to previous reports, which were attached under, but essentially that private road collection policy states that the road has to meet a minimum standard, that the equipment can drive down the road, that they can turn around so that they don't have to back up, and that at any point that private collection can be removed because we are not required to provide private collection on private roads, and the residents would be given a 30 days notice of the change of collection. So doesn't always mean that it's a permanent forever, is the general gist of the private road collection policy. I did also put in there the suggestion that we could do kind of like an initial phase on Destination Way and Cozy Crescent, which currently has no collection, not a common area, not curbside collection. And that would give us data to inform that report as well for staff to bring back. We already know the costing of that. That was in the previous report that I circulated to council. And again, it's focusing on roads that would allow curbside service with the current fleet that GFL has. So no specialized equipment required or adjustments to other curbside collection that we see throughout the rest of the West Hants Regional Municipality. And so I am open for any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Leary Pinch. Questions, council? Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report again, Councillor Larry Pinch. As a reference when we spoke about this previously, I've driven out through this community, and it's to me pretty clear that it's an area that would typically have curbside collection for the nature of the homes and the like that are there, if I can say it that way. And I guess where we ran into a bit of a stomach block the last time, but the key points in here that I line up with, one is to get the cost of the roads that would qualify, which you identified in your report, and fully support that. And that within that cost or that analysis on roads that would qualify, that be done without any more fleet added based on existing vehicles used by the collector. So there's no added incremental cost for going forward with this. And those would be the first 2 steps that I would look to see to allow us to make a decision separate beyond policy and other matters, which I think would become secondary. And so when I looked at your report and went through the way you had them ordered, I think that was generally the way that I would see the support of this motion going forward. A is the costing estimate, the roads to qualify and be done without any additional fleet, and policy can be dealt with after, because as you point out, within the policy, if the roads and the homes on those roads qualify and meet the criteria in section 4 of that policy, then it can be engaged. And if for any reason, I think it's that the director has the discretion to pull it if it didn't qualify. So I'd like to see those components, but I support it in that regard.
Any further questions to Councillor Leary Pinch? Councillor Whedon.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Not really a question, just a comment. In my district, there is a large development that does meet the criteria, and they do have a common area, but they would like curbside collection as well. And I've always been a advocate for doing all the roads, and I believe it was 21. I might have my numbers off, but I think there's 21 roads that meet that criteria. So I'm definitely in support of getting the costing of this put together.
Further questions to Councillor Leary Pinch? All right, ball's in your court, Councillor John Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Not so much a question, but a comment. I've only really heard from residents in three three different areas or three different streets that requested the collection pickup. That was Destination Way, Cozy Crescent, and I'm not sure the name of the street down in Lakelands. I think it's Eagle View or, yeah. So, but I don't recall hearing a lot from the other large developments in Vaughan's. I took a drive through that area just to look and see, because the last time we discussed it, I had thought I had a good idea of what we were talking about, but after I did drive around and looked, it's it's pretty apparent that Destination Way and Cozy Crescent look just like regular streets. I'm surprised they aren't municipal streets. And the Eagle View down in Lakelands, it's looks just like a normal road. Doesn't look like that it would be passable or anything like that. So anyway, I would support collection on those three streets, but I haven't heard from the larger development. I thought at one time it'd be better to have equality across all the streets in the municipality, but I'm not so sure that would work because the residents in these other areas, some of them aren't full time. Some of them rely on the central pickup. And they just haven't voiced it the same way the other residents have. So just my comments.
All right.
I'll just add, if
Councillor
I can, to
Lippin.
Councillor Smith's point. So if we adopt the private road collection policy, it actually states in there that in order for private roads, additional private roads that meet the municipal specifications identified to get curbside collection, 75%. I'm looking at Director Richard, I'm pretty sure it was 75% of the residents have to sign the document requesting that private collection as well. So there is that piece in there for other developments. And I don't think within the district of Vaughan that there are other developments that their full development meets the municipal specification. I think it is only Cozy Crescent and Destination Way that fully meet the spec on all of the roads for those residents.
All right, Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair, just I did go back and read the report that the coordinator had brought to us about the waste collection on private roads, and noted like staff were recommending that we do that private road pickup, but they also mentioned it was Moonshadow Run in Vaughan. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't overlooked. That's the only reason I was bringing it up, because it was referred to in that report. That's the only reason.
It is another section that's within that, but it doesn't currently have any residences on it or land purchased. The developer still owns the land.
Councillor Palmer.
Mine's more of a comment on the last two items on that we just went over with. Council went through the budget last year. We're behind by 6 cents, means we're minus 6 cents going into this budget. Haven't even looked at it yet. Inflation means we're 7.5 behind. Now you want to add on at least another 2 cents. Just where are we going to get the money from? That's my comment.
Any further questions to Councillor Leary Pinch? Councillor Whedon.
Thank you, Mayor. One other comment just to make here. The other thing that we're not really looking at here is what is going into the landfill from these common collection areas. There's a lot of residents that do take part in the recycling program and doing things right. But in those areas, there's a lot of people that, for lack of better words, do the dumpster dump. So they'll come in and they'll throw all the garbage that they can't put curbside into these kind of units. And down the road at the landfill, it's becoming a problem too. So I really think this is something that we should really look into. And these first roads would be a great first step.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess just going to the cost estimate that's included in the report, where it's $250,000 to $350,000 based on the 21 roads that are currently identified. And that's based on a current total cost for curbside collection at 1.35 million. So that's an 18 to a 25% increase for 21 roads. And it's not just about that, it is about having proper service for levels that are required. But that's why I'm going to underline the point that on this, I fully support the information report request to get the costing and the no additional fleet component of this, so we can then determine if the policy fits or does not. So it's sort of like a stage 2 process for me. Let me know the cost, let me know the extent to which this would fit, at which point in time we can then determine, yeah, we're willing to go down that path, but and that's why, similar to what I did in the previous report, not wanting to specify roads, as much as I look at those roads and can see that, for me to support specifying those roads, I need to know what that actual cost is going to be overall. If we ended up doing it for all 21, want to know what that is.
All right, so I'm not seeing any more lights for questions. Councillor Louis Pinch.
Okay, so the motion is all together. I'm hearing Councillor Ivy's point. But I'm gonna go with the motion as it is. And then I will take the bottom piece where it's curbside collection for Cozy Crescent and Destination Way. I will pull the pilot project as a separate motion. So I'll keep all of the other items in the initial motion. So after consideration of the information presented in this report, council recommends the adoption of the private roads collection policy, direction for staff to incorporate the private roads collection policy into the municipal planning strategy through the ongoing plan review, request for an information report on existing private roads currently eligible for curbside collection under municipal specifications, including but not limited to identification of the eligible private roads and costing implications if GFL provides service using existing equipment with no new fleet purchases.
Moved by Councillor Louis Pinch.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Whedon. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, I just want to understand our need to have the first two in there in order to get to the information report, which is what I'm looking for. Is that information report on costing and the roads that come in with that? Do we need to have those first two components there? Can somebody get me up to speed with that, please?
I'm going to look to staff for that because I don't know if they feel they need those first two components there in order to go out and source the information.
Director Richard.
Presumably they would be following the private road collection policy, so therefore it would need to be adopted for you to use that to specify the private roads.
Yeah, we wouldn't need the first two to provide essentially what we provided before. We provided some numbers. We did reach out to GFL on what those costs would be to service the eligible private roads. Again, as staff, I think we need to make you aware. So we are dealing with a contractual matter through GFL, right? They'll provide us a number. That number could, go up on the next contract or as more people come. So just make you aware that what we'll bring back is, that point in time with a discussion, what would you charge? And then there'd be a contractual, because they'd have to add that to the contract because we don't actually have that in the contract. So not saying that that number could, may change, it may go up, but just to make you aware that, it is a contract with GFL and that number that they give us, hopefully is quite accurate. But, and again, if we start out with certain roads, we will probably get more requests through. So it's just, that was our recommendation to staff, certainly, as curbside collection, like the councillor expressed, better sorting, better enforcement, but it will come at a cost. And it's just, when you set precedents, I just want to make that clear. So.
All right. Any further questions? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to get to the nature of the contract that we have, because I was of the opinion that it was tonnage. And I think I raised this point before, that if it's based on tonnage, then how do we have the added cost in doing the extra door stops on a, and through you, Mayor, too, I believe Director Richard is at the mic.
The contract is not based on tonnage, it's based on per stop. Stops. Yeah.
That was articulated at that previous meeting as well, so.
So if I could follow up on that, just so we can get that locked in here. Did we change that in the last contract that it was tonnage before and then we went to per stop, or? Because I was sure we were
As far as I
tonnage.
recall, it was always based on stops. Yeah. Even previous Windsor was based on stops.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of wiggle room. So once we get, so many stops, the contractor said we're over 20. So there's a threshold there where the contractual number will increase, but it's, to my awareness, any contracts that I've been dealt with, it's always based on per stop.
Okay, my mistake. Apologies. I could have sworn we were tonnage.
Further questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing no lower lights, all right, motion was stated, the adoption of private roads collection policy, direction for staff to incorporate the private roads collection policy in municipal planning strategy, MPS, through ongoing plan review. Requested information report on existing private roads currently eligible for curbside collection under municipal specifications, including but not limited to identification of eligible private roads. That's where you stopped, or? And costing implications, GFL provides services using existing equipment with no new fleet purchases. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion is defeated. 6 in favor, 6 against. Those against, just for the record here, Councillor Ivy, Smith, Other Smith, Morton, Francis. All right, and Yanish. All right, thank you very much, everybody. All right. Anything further from you, Councillor Larry Pinch? Oh, you're okay. All right, next on the agenda, Mayor's report. I'm going to skip it for this meeting, Council. It's a very short turnaround from the last one. I'll just add it all onto the January's report. Financial updates, water consumption memo, and financial update. Capital budget, Director Rashawn.
Thank you, Worship. So I will not go over the memo today, but that has been circulated in your package, and I'm happy to answer any questions or defer some questions over here to Director Richard on that matter. So if you'll allow me, I'll jump right into capital, and then we can kind of circle back if there's any questions on the water memo.
Sure.
Perfect. All right. So jumping right into capital. So before you is a new capital report. We've been working on kind of changing the style from last year just to make it a little bit easier to follow. So what you'll have on the first page of your capital is the department summary. So this should be able to be matched back to your capital budget that you have by the different departments that you see. And it here will represent, of course, what's in the budget, and then go through what anything was in the previous years. So years in brackets. So some of these projects might have spanned since 2023 or even before that. And then you'll have the total cost as of September 30th, 2025. And then you'll have the total project cost to date. So that would take the previous year's amount plus the current year's amount up to September 30th. And then in the last column there, you have basically your percentage of budget utilization to date. So as of, for example, the capital renewals project, as of September 30th, has utilized 25.8% of their current year's capital budget so far. So the 4.3 million divided by the 16.7 million. So overall of our $45.8 million budget, we are currently sitting at 16.8% completion of that. And then in the next couple pages, you have the detailed report that kind of complements that with each of the projects and the various statuses of those projects and where they're at. So the various budgets of each project, including the status of whether it's completed or not. Those color codings should be very familiar. We kept them very similar to the last capital reports that we've done. We again divided them by segments so that you can easily track them back to that main summary page. So at the end of September 30th, we had 70 projects that were complete of the 140 that are on this list, which is about 50%, or sorry, not complete, in progress, my apologies. So 50% of the projects are underway. So that's 50% of the projects are underway, which, you know, considering it's September 30th, that's actually really good, considering we didn't have a budget approved until June 30th. We have 9 projects, or 6.4% completed by September 30th, and we have 61 projects still left to start. And that would be 43.6%. Happy to answer any questions before we move into the water report.
Questions to Director, Council? Councilor Ivy.
So like I'm okay with formatting change, and that's okay. And I guess my comments, maybe I'll save it to the water one too, because there's the general issue of the timing for us getting these and being able to go through them. So I'll save that. Let's go through the water first. I didn't even know we had a water. Did we get a water?
Or you received a water memo.
The memo. Okay, so I'll let you go through the memo first and then thank you.
No other lights? All right.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as I stated, I won't be going through the memo in detail. Basically, just due to staff workloads and then ongoing data analysis through our AWWA audit that staff are completing, we've been unable to complete some investigations. So we have pulled that report to ensure accuracy on the information that's coming to council. Again, if there's any detailed questions, Director Richard or myself can answer, and we'll look to bring a delayed report back to January.
You want to speak on the memo, Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, if I could, generally, and I know at the last meeting we had questions on depreciation that we hadn't heard back, which had to do with the water utilities. And there was some formatting within the table. And then there was the battery question as it related to the bulk meters, bulk meter, I believe, from back in the first quarter. And so the comment generally is that a year ago, we saw the reports move from committee of the whole to council.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the reports don't come in a manner that we've got the ability to get inside them, so this afternoon, whenever this report showed up, and it's a detailed report for us to go through, and even with the water ones, we end up losing a full month before we can come back because we're going now council to council versus it being committee of the whole to council. So I'm going to put a motion on the floor tonight directing that the reports all come in at committee of the whole where they started with, so that we at least have an opportunity to be able to go through the reports at committee of the whole, and then if need be for follow-up at council 2 weeks later. So we're not 4 weeks later. And the reason I'm saying that is we know that we've got some challenges, A, budget-wise, and B, with the information that we're going through. But it's just, I don't think it's right that we're having to try and go through a financial report of any nature, whether it's operating or consumption or capital projects, on the same day that we're meeting tonight. We don't get that luxury with what we try to do, aside from council reports that are informational. And while these might be considered information, they're significant as we're chasing expense reductions, new revenues, and making sure we can see where we're at on the budget. So,
and Councillor Ivey, I wouldn't disagree with you. And I know the last two reports were late, and I do apologize for that. And they were late just due to staff capacities and what we were able to complete, plus the short turnaround time between November and December's council meeting. So I do appreciate that they were late. And I do recall back to the change from committee of the whole to council. It was because of our month-end process. We weren't able to complete it before committee of the whole.
right. And I appreciate that too. And I also appreciate that in December, we're in this strange period where we've got 3 meetings 1 week after the other. Council, committee of the whole, and back to council. I fully appreciate that. But by and large, we're reporting, or we were previously reporting what was dated from 2 months prior, but now we're into 3 months. We're seeing water bills being billed and issued that are going out with still 3 weeks left in the month quarter. So like in September, we did meter reads on the 3rd of September. Well, July, August, September is the second quarter. But for September, we didn't get the last 25 days, 27 days of the month. And so it just creates all kinds of challenges of being able to track the financials with previous year's information and current year's. I'm just trying to get us to a point of consistency that we can look at data and make a conclusion that's reasonable with the data that's in front of us. But right now, whether we need to get a temporary person to assist with this work or the backlog or whatever it would take to, because that data reporting for us is really key. I can't speak for, maybe if there's people nodding heads, great, but if they're not, if it's just me, say so. But I really think that we need that information.
I think at the end of the day, I think we're getting the same stuff, but just you wanted at the committee of the whole. So I think everybody wants the same thing, and that's accurate information and time for counselors to be able to interpret and ask and get without that month delay. So I think we're all on the same page here. So so did you want to put that motion forward, or was that
Yep.
motion made? It
Yep.
was in the middle of a
Sure.
monologue there. So
Yeah, I understand. I know I can get wordy because in my mind, I'm still needing to explain it. But yeah, I would move that the staff reports for financial reporting effective with the January 13th Committee of the Whole meeting, that the reporting come at Committee of the Whole each month, and that it come in with the same kind of guidelines and timing that we have for council reports and so on, which is before the reports go out on Friday, end of day, I think is acceptable per the meeting and committee procedural policy. We know things slip.
all right, I'm just going to cut you off there because
Thank
that was
you.
the motion before it goes on. So reports to come back Committee of the Whole.
Second.
It's moved by Councillor Ivy, seconded by Councillor McLean. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Remy.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I just have a question and just kind of reiterating, I think what Councillor Ivy was saying. It's the issue with it coming like today. So it came to us today, right? So our package comes to us on Fridays. So it would be nice if that package was complete so that we actually have time, because I mean, appreciating our role here as council and many of us have full-time jobs. And so getting something on the afternoon of the day of the meeting makes it a little difficult to review. So just to the procedural policy thing.
Yep. So just on that point, so if it's not in council, then it doesn't make the agenda, so you don't get it at all. So that's where it would lead. So just so there's no misunderstanding and why was it not on, et cetera, et cetera. But
Yeah,
you
but
got a good point there. So
yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's like
you want time for
when the package comes, it
absolutely.
would be a completed package.
You want time to be able to, absolutely. All right, so motion has been made, seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. All right, motion is passed. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, committee look of council excerpts, recommendations, committee of the whole from December 2nd, 2025. 2025-2026 warming center funding allocation. Deputy Mayor.
Council approved 20,000 in addition to the funds approved in the 2025-2026 budget in bridge funding to assist local service groups to mobilize quicker to open a warming center at the Hants Aquatic Center for the months of December and January to be funded through the West Hants Regional Municipality Operating Reserves.
Moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor John Smith. Further questions, discussion? I think CIO, you had a little bit of an update today just for information for everybody as well.
Yes, I'm happy to provide that, council. Just try to hit it maybe perhaps in bullet form. I know that council had considerable discussion at committee of the whole around having some questions asked. So I was contacted today by a provincial representative who is administering the program for which Caremongers is applying to. And I further had a conversation with representatives of Caremongers just to make sure they are the applicant. We are not. So that's the information I'm sharing is in sync with them, and it is. So they are feeling very confident and a heavy indication that the funding will be approved for the Caremongers for the warming center for this up and coming winter season. Of course, it is their application, so I have all the details, but generally it is associated with a overnight warming center. That is the intent, 7 days a week. Now there is what we might call a soft opening, and that really is with Caremongers and trying to manage the volunteers and the various people that have stepped forward. Either folks that have been with them for a number of years or new folks that are coming to them. So they have to mobilize, train, and get that volunteer or attendee base ready. So they anticipate having a soft start as early as this Friday and Saturday and Sunday. That is their intent. Again, I'm saying this in the public forum. They need to deliver on that, but they're feeling confident that they can at this point. Back to the provincial funding. The question was asked whether our funding, should this motion be approved, negatively affect their application. And the provincial representative said it would not negatively affect their application. I was very clear with both the province and caremongers that this motion as stated is to bridge, I think is the word that's noted in the motion, which basically is the intent to support the warming center in the months of December and January. So when would the municipal funding be used? Of course, until the funding from the province arrives. The indication is that it could arrive effective January 1st, 2025. So back to council's support. It could be that a portion of your funding supports the December operation, and then your support ceases. And then, of course, the provincial funding supports it from there forward. So it's very clear with both parties that that was the intent of the municipal funding, and that just doesn't go into a pool. It was meant to bridge in the absence of provincial funding. The facility was discussed, and at least to date, they are satisfied with the condition of the facility, that it meets the eligibility, or a modified version of the eligibility of the program as is. And again, we have few minor things to do before it's ready for this Friday, but we're confident that will be in place. And finally, not mentioned in my note, but I was reminded of an insurance cost associated with liability and insurance that the caremongers would have to have. And I was told today that that was also part of the funding. So it feels like kind of an all-encompassing funding, far more positive than 2 weeks ago, and certainly 4 weeks ago, your worship. So
Perfect.
that's the update. It feels positive. Thank you.
Much better update. Further questions, council, on the motion? Councillor Moran, Paul.
I'd like to amend the motion if someone to say that, where is it? That 2025-26 council amend the motion to read for December, the amount for $10,000, and if needed for January, $10,000, not give them $20,000 for just 1 month. Just to be clear.
So we have a motion to amend the motion from the previous meeting to say $10,000 for the month of December
if needed,
and 10,000 for the month of January
if needed.
If needed. Okay, so motion to amend has been made. Is there a seconder? Councillor Remy? For a second, or?
No, I had a
No,
question.
yeah, I need a second first. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Janusz, is that your hand up, or you have a question? Or you
Yes, no, I'm trying to second it.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, just say it out next time, so it's just, okay, so seconded by Councillor Janusz on the amendment. Councillor Remy?
Sorry, no, I meant to shut it off.
No, okay. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Ivy?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think, I mean, based on what we've seen in our previous discussions, 6 months ago, 2 weeks ago, last weekend now, this initiative is complex enough, even though the key components here being funding and 2 people, human resources in order to manage it, that I wouldn't look to get inside the components of whether it's 10 for December, because we're almost halfway through now, that it's $20,000 between that period for what's needed as bridge financing, as we have in the motion, and get this thing moving.
Councillor Bob Moran?
Yeah, thank you, worship. Just for clarification, was our original motion up to 20,000, or was it just 20,000?
It was 20,000.
It was just.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor?
I have a couple questions.
Yep.
We keep talking bridge funding. Bridge funding to me is it's paid back. Don't want to mix on words, but I'm just kind of curious. Is it bridge funding to get us through, or is it bridge funding that is going to be paid back?
Is there any indication on that, CAO, or?
Only really if I would compare it to other grants that we've received. So I can't give you a definitive answer. Again, we're not the applicant, but typically the effective date is the key piece, right? So if the effective date is January 1st, then that's when it would stop for us, and we would not be proceeding with funding anyway, because they have it in place. So unless they were to identify, let's pick this Friday and pick a date out of the year, what's that, 10, 11, 12? December 12th, it was effective December 12th, but they make that decision at the end of December, then there is potentially an element of retroactivity or bridging as you've defined it. But I haven't heard that to date. I think council personally should expect to allocate their funding until the effective date. And right now, we've been told it could be January 1st. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions or? Nope. Further questions on the amendment, Councillor Remy?
Through you, Mayor, I do have a question then. So this is primarily, we're giving them just a $20,000 grant for the last couple of weeks of December to do the staffing or whatever. Is that like if their funding is supposed to be coming in January 1st?
So the original motion was $20,000 for the months of January and February. December and January. But now the amendment has been made to amend the motion to say funding of 10,000 for December if needed, and then funding for $10,000 for the month of January if needed. So that's the amendment that we're discussing now. And then we'll see where that goes before we get back to the original motion.
Okay, cool. And it's going towards staffing. Am I to understand that? That's what the discussion was at.
It was to assist local service groups to mobilize quicker to open a warming center at the Hants Aquatic Center. So that was the wording of the motion. Deputy Mayor.
My last comment on this is, it was clear in the email we received that, you know, it's the safety is everything. We've heard that a few times this evening. And caremonglers will have to have property security checks, vulnerable persons training, and it's critical, it says, before the warming center is operational. So they're aiming, and I assume they have the volunteers and everyone in place from previous years that would have that training. So we're looking at 3 weeks, 3 possibly nights for this 10,000. I appreciate what we're trying to do, and I am happy that the province is going to fund this because I think these discussions were ongoing. My concern, and we've heard, is the safety of everybody. And it was brought to my attention last week that we had an incident in our sports complex. And it was quite discerning for me with young children around the possibilities. And when we think of unhoused, I think there's other factors that could come in play. And we do have trained people, and we received a letter this week that was very appreciated, an explanation of their resources and thing. And I'm sure they will be there to help. But I still have heard from many residents too that we need to stay in our lane. I worry about the volunteers. I worry about what ifs, and maybe I shouldn't. I've also wondering, I don't know how many unhoused we have. Hearing right now, you know, not counting those surfing coaches and stuff, that there's 3 that is in our area that we moved when we had the Woods Band. And I feel for these folks, and I'm glad the province is stepping up and helping, and I'm glad the caremonglers didn't, you know, pull their application, and they're going to be the ones that are going to oversee this. So just want to make that as a comment.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor John Smith.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the amendment, but I don't know how we would tell whether it was actually needed or not. Really. So I don't think we're in a position to be able to pull back now. Thanks.
I think CIO has stated that the staff will be on top of it. So once the funding comes in from the province, they're in communication regularly with both caremongers, service groups, and the province on it. So I'm confident in staff to be able to manage that as well on my end. But Councillor Leary Pinch.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to CEO Phillips. Was there indication that once the funding comes through, that there would be more than 3 days operational weekly, or that they were still unsure of their capacity?
So again, we'd be careful not speaking for caremongers and also managing the expectations from the community, whether it be the homeless folks that are living rough. But my understanding is that they would like to progress as quickly as they could. And Councillor Ivy used the word human resources, that if the human resources are there and so forth, they're trying to find this balance of making sure everyone's safe and everyone's trained and it's sustainable. And the last thing, I know something is better than nothing, but they want to have a consistent program that does evolve into 7 days a week overnight, very likely be 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. as it did last year. So they would like to move and evolve into that, again, pending human resource. Yep.
Councillor Paul Morton.
Just a question for CEO. So is the money being funded through the province going directly to caremonger or being funneled through the municipality?
So it's very likely the funding will go to caremongers, but we last year, and we would administer basically the payroll. So I was going to jump in there on your worship when you made the comment. So we very much would watch, we know that meter. So whether this amendment goes forward for 10,000 for the month of December, or whether it's 20,000, we have that direct oversight because of that. And so checks probably written to caremongers, and then they reimburse us as the year goes on.
Councillor Leary Pinch.
Sorry, through you, Chair, just one last quick question. During this bridge interim, whatever language we want to use funding, are we responsible, just from what Deputy Mayor Francis brought forward, for any like liabilities that may occur, or outside of what we would typically be responsible of because of funding prior to the province stepping in on the first, or is it the same as traditional? And we provide the building and caremongers is responsible.
Yeah. So the liability, so back to the program and the grant, my understanding is that the province will pay for the liability associated with the operation of it. Of course, we have general liability associated with the facility. So again, back to that effective date, that key piece, the effective date and when the program and when the funding is recognized. But we will look at, and that's where this 10,000 as well, or the 20,000 can help with that in between, but all parties will have the appropriate liability in place.
I think the original intent of the funding council was to get it operational quicker. You can wait till the end of January or January 1st or whatever, but the intent was to get it operational quicker. So if they can get it this Friday, and this bridge funding was a part of that reason for this quick, that it's a good thing. But Councillor Morton.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just curious if we can get the original motion back up there on the screen. That's all.
So that's the original motion, but the motion on the floor right now, council, is an amendment for $10,000 if needed for a month of December, and $10,000 if needed for the month of January. So that's the amendment that we're going to address first. That's on the floor right now. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, just a point that I want to make so that I don't know that's a sticking point for any of us or not, but the question was asked earlier about whether the bridge funding was payback or not. And if this was a bridge loan, I would probably, and not to get really tight on the wording, but bridge loan would typically probably be something that gets paid back, but we're using funding more like, I think, a stopgap. I don't know if that's the right phrasing or not, to get them through to start to the point that other funding comes into place. So I think we're safe with the wording that we have here. Just wanted to say that for what it's worth. That.
All right, no more lights on. So everybody's clear on the amendment that you're voting on. All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? All right, motion for the amendment has been defeated. So you're back to the original motion that is up on the screen. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Three opposed. All right, motion is passed. Thank you very much. All right, next up, Committee of Council Excerpts Recommendations, 30% Design Award, Stannis Street Stormwater Management. Deputy Mayor.
Council approved the award of the 30% design Stannis Street Stormwater Management to CBCL Limited for the price of $60,000 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconder. Seconded by Councillor Larry Pinch. Discussion. All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ivey, you had your light.
Yeah, sorry, I'll have to. So my only comment on this is, we've gone through a long process with this to get to this point. And the last thing I want to be doing is speaking about, where we've landed on this, because we all want to see things move forward. But over the course of specifically the last year and a half, I've asked some specific questions as it relates to the pipe along the waterfront, the capacity for it to handle it, pump station 7, between that and 1. And we still haven't gotten that information. And that's disappointing because, again, it's been a year and a half, probably 3 or 4 times the point's been raised. But every time I ask it, it's like I'm looking at a deer in the headlights, as if I've never asked the question before. So the reason that that's important is because it has to do with what the backup points are. So I'm not wanting to speak against this motion in any way, shape, or form, because I want to get that sewage off the street, out of their homes, and don't want to have it showing up there again. And anything that's moving forward in that regard helps with that. But I still want to know that information because, in fact, what this does is have us looking to the environment department to give us the okay to have overflow in a different area. Doesn't mean the problem isn't still going to exist down where it's occurring already. That's a long ways between Stannis down to the waterfront and getting to Stannis and then diverting it over. So I just want to point that out, that that's not lost on me, that information that we've been asking for still hasn't been provided. A year ago, September, we were said, we'll see that information in the phase 2 report. It's not there. Again, don't want to be speaking to this about this. I've been fighting too hard to see that we got somewheres with this, but it just shouldn't be the case. That's all I've got to say.
All right, further discussion on the motion. All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? One opposed, Councillor McLean. Motion's passed. Deputy Mayor.
Council approve a design contingency amount of $9,000 before applicable taxes.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion. All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? One opposed. Motion passed. Thank you very much. Emergency water relief during droughts policy. Deputy Mayor.
Council adopt the emergency water relief during droughts policy RCOGE-004.00, substantially the same as presented at the December 2nd, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leary Pinch. Discussion. All right, all those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you very much. WHRM tender award plow salt truck. Deputy Mayor.
Council approves the award of tender for the purchase of a 19,500 kg GVW plow truck, outfitted as tender WHPW 25-16 from Nova Enterprises Limited for the tendered price of $374,965,000 plus applicable taxes less trade-in values of $30,000.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Bonnie Smith. Questions, discussion? All those in favor signify by hands up. Opposed? 3 opposed, 4 opposed. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Yes. Councillor Yanush, McLean, Leary Pinch, and Ivy. All right. Council Municipal Business Activity Reports. Again, it was nice to have those reports. A couple of councillors submitted. We appreciate them and keep them coming, Council. They're always informative and gives us a little bit of insight from specific districts. Advisory board activity reports, again, submitted, accessibility, library board, Region 6 and VCFN. Again, on the accessibility, it's nice to see the committee going out and doing those assessments on the library or the Southwest Hands Fire Hall. So as they keep on going, counselors, if there's a community hall in one of your districts or a venue that's well used, send it to Councilor Remy or the committee, and maybe they can have a meeting, doing a report on it as well. Library board, again, a lot happening within that. So anytime you have a chance to advocate with the MLA or any other provincial representative, please give a plug for libraries. Region 6, again, budget coming up, a presentation in January. So it's nice to see 45 out of 49 municipalities joining the program for circular materials. So it's nice to go. Nice to see. And the VCFN, again, short meeting, quick meeting, but chugging along. You want to comment on it, or?
Can I just make one
Yep.
comment on that? And I don't have the report up.
Yep.
CAO Phillips let me know. I said I would be bringing a report to council in January, but that's actually not necessary. Sorry, CAO, if you can help me out with the reason it's not necessary, because I left my notes at home.
So I think we were talking about our ongoing cost, essentially to participate as a partner. And then, of course, the benefits that we receive of being a partner in VCFN, which remains at $5,113, as you've noted in the report. So actually, Director Rashawn and I, of course, revisit the process when, it's out there. So we have not had, like we would say, Region 6. It has to be approved here, and that'll probably come in January. And we've asked Christine to come and present that, but we have not traditionally done our allocation approval here at the council level. It's just a line item because of our participation in the VCFN. So I know during the meeting, I was asked the question and I was interpreting it as if we had an additional funding, capital improvement, something above and beyond. I say, well, each partner goes back and they get the approval, and then they come back with the endorsement. So where this is ongoing operational contribution, no change from last year. It has not required the specific approval of council. So I think you've captured it, and I wouldn't anticipate anything coming forward because there's no change in the service. Okay.
Perfect. All right. New business, there is none. Correspondence, a letter received from Royal Canadian Legion regarding the Poppy campaign, just a thank you of support and etc. Nothing outgoing, nothing in camera. So our next meeting date is the 13th of January, Committee Hall, 6 p.m. We will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas.